My name is Stuart Ashman. I'm the president and CEO of the Museum of Latin American Art in Long Beach, California, MOLA. It's about 50,000 square feet. We have a collection of 1,200 works of modern and contemporary Latin American art. And just recently, we expanded the definition of Latin American art to include Latino, Chicano, Hispano, and the whole diaspora as well. I met Carlos in 1988. I was doing some exhibition design and preparation for a new gallery in Santa Fe called Aline Lapidus Gallery in the site of where the George O'Keeffe Museum is now. And Carlos was outside installing a major sculpture that had been purchased by Ms. Lapidus. And the more I look at Carlos's work, the more I relate it to a lot of themes that are even outside of the arts, because he's involved with scientific concepts. In a way, philosophers have and mathematicians have a thing called complexity theory. And if you ask one of them, what does that really mean? Well, it's like everything is connected to everything. A worker like Carlos Carulo comes from inside. It's his expression of his impressions. Carlos's work makes reference to materials that didn't exist in the 19th century. For example, you look at some of his paintings and you say, what are those, titanium rods? They just seem to emit a certain kind of futuristic thing. So they're very well tied to the thinking that's going on in the 21st century. And you can't really categorize them as an abstract painting, because when you do that, you start thinking about the 1920s and the 30s. And in fact, when you look at his paintings, you know that these are not from the 20s and the 30s. They may be from the 20s and the 30s, but 2020 and 2030. There's a big connection with Carulo's previous work and what he's doing today. It's an evolution of sorts. He's become more abstract in a lot of ways, but if you follow the thread of his work, in fact, it's not more abstract at all. It just becomes more complex and more deep. He goes deeper into the same themes that he was working on before. I see many other artists' influence in there. I see Mata. There's some element, I know Soto is a kinetic artist from Venezuela, but there's some movement in these paintings that maybe relates in some way to that. And in some cases, and this is my own personal reference, I even see Wilfredo Lam, who's the Cuban modernist. There's elements of artists like Kandinsky, Gorky, is in there as well. And then, you know, because he's been in New Mexico for so long, you really connect them to the Transcendentalists. Raymond Johnson, Agnes Pelton, and even in some respects, a lesser known artist, Frank Gettenberg, is in his work as well. The internet plays a huge role in an artist's career. If somebody says, I would like you to look at the work of Carulo, why don't you check him out? And you take the time to do that, that is, in a way, it's the same as having a catalog for Europe. You have to have a website. Collecting is a challenge for people that are interested in work as an investment, because you really want to buy something from somebody who's going to grow. Not so much in economic value, but in their career. So you want to say, you know, you buy something from an artist in his studio, and 5–10 years later, they have a major retrospective in a big museum, and you realize that your investment paid off for the artist, and it really makes your work even more special. So I would say to a young collector, buy what moves you, and then continue to follow that artist.